Now, the next topic which is very important of cerebrum is the nerve fiber of the cerebrum. In the cerebrum, there are three nerve fibers. One is association fibers, projection fibers and the commissural fibers. What is association fibers? In the same lobe, the functional areas will communicate with each other by these same fibers. These are called association fibers. The projection fibers, these fibers which will go from the cortical level to the subcortical level, that is called projection fiber. That's an internal capsule corona radiata fibers. And coming to the commissural fibers, that is the two lobes of the cerebrum will communicate with each other via these fibers which are called the commissural fibers. Now if I give an example of a house, I have two flats in the same floor, and in a single flat, if I have a communication with the rooms, like dining room to the bedroom, one dining room to the bedroom, two dining room to the kitchen, these are all inside the same flat. So this is the association fibers. Now if the two bedrooms are being connected of the two flats, two dining room of the flats are being connected, two kitchens are being connected by the fibers, so this is called commissural fibers. Now if I drop a letter, if you're back towards the floor, so that will be my projection fibers. So that is of the brain also doing the same functions. So these association fibers will connect the functional areas and the areas of the lobes of the brain in a single ipsilateral cerebral hemisphere. There are short association fibers connecting the motor area, sensory area and their respective areas, and long association areas, of which this is your superior longitudinal fasciculus coming from the frontal lobe, crossing the parietal, comes to the occipital lobe. That will come from the occipital towards the temporal lobe as the inferior longitudinal fasciculus. Now coming to this one fasciculus from the uncus to the pars orbitalis, this is called uncinate fasciculus. Okay. Then one fiber that is coming from the frontal to the occipital, this is called fronto-occipitalis fasciculus. It is just like the fibers inside the room and fibers outside the room, that the wall which is separating these fibers are called corona radiata fibers coming from the motor areas and the sensory area. These are called belonging to the projection root, and they will ultimately forming these projection fibers called the internal capsules. So this is the pink color, these are called the association fibers, and the yellow color, this is the projection fibers. Now coming to the main projection fiber, that is the internal capsule. This is between the head of the caudate nucleus and thalamus and the lentiform nucleus laterally. So medially head of the caudate nucleus and the thalamus, laterally lentiform nucleus. This is the anterior limb of the internal capsule, this is genu, this is posterior limb. This is below the lentiform called sublentiform, and this is retrolentiform, behind the lentiform nucleus. So these are the different parts of the internal capsule. We will have one more class, the fibers passing through the internal capsules and the arterial supply of the internal capsule in the next day. So these fibers are mainly the projection fibers. From the cortical level, they will go to the subcortical level. Coming to the commissural fibers, this is your main commissural fiber, is the corpus callosum, which starts from the lamina terminalis. This is your rostrum, then the genu, then the body and the splenium. Okay. Now rostrum will connect from one orbital area to the other orbital area of the two lobes, right and the left lobes in the rostrum. Genu is the frontal fibers from one frontal lobe to the other frontal lobe. These fibers are called fossils minor fibers, frontal lobe and the other frontal lobe. Then we will see the parietal lobe. Tapetum fibers, these parietal lobes will go from one parietal lobe to the other parietal lobe, and they will ultimately go to the occipital lobe and continues with the temporal lobe. So they will forming this projection called splenium fibers. So these splenium fibers will go from the occipitotemporal region of one lobe to the occipitotemporal region of the other lobe. This is in the midline. They will connect with each other. These are the commissural fibers called the corpus callosum. What are the commissural fibers? Main is the corpus callosum. There is anterior commissural fibers, posterior commissural fibers, habenular commissural fibers and hippocampal commissural fibers. We will see all these in the description in the other day. Now why these commissural fibers are very important? It is important because the right lobe and the left lobe of the brain, right hemisphere and the left hemisphere of the brain have the different functions, and they will be communicated with each other via the corpus callosum. On the right side it is the music, artistic sense lies there. Then the synthesis of anything that is there, and the geometry, three-dimensional geometry, that is done by the right lobe of the cerebral hemisphere. The left lobe, in contrast to that, in logical speech will be done by the left lobe. Analysis of any situation, that is done by the left lobe, and calculation, that is being done by the left lobe. So the communication is set in between the two by the corpus callosum. Like Mokbul physician used to draw the diagram, artistic sense in the right lobe, and he used to sell the diagrams to by calculating the price. So both the right and the left were communicating with each other through the corpus callosum fibers. So that is very important because of the main function of the brain. Now we will come to the medial surface. We have got a singular gyrus. There lies the cingulum, which is very important, the cingulum connecting, and the hippocampal area, those area association fibers. These will give the basic needs of the body, that is hunger, thirst, sex. These fibers are being communicated through these association fibers, which is also very important for the main functions of the brain. So this is your nerve fibers, which are from the functional areas and also doing the great job by communicating with each other, the right and the left side. Ultimately the decision taken and it's conveyed or functioned by the human being. So that's up to the nerve fibers of the cerebrum.